Are you aware that some fans are calling for a boycott, given JK Rowling's ongoing campaign against trans people?
I was not aware of that, no. I'm very sorry.
Trans activists are mad at Keira Knightley right now, but really they're not mad at Keira Knightley. They're mad at JK Rowling. And really they're not mad at JK Rowling for being transphobic. They're mad at JK Rowling because there's not anything they can do about it. And Keira Knightley doesn't have a responsibility to be aware or care about any of this. And to tell you the truth, I personally don't even think JK Rowling is transphobic. I also don't think JK Rowling is anti-trans. JK Rowling is just very pro-woman and a champion for women's spaces. And like I said, I think it bothers a trans activist that they can't do anything to JK Rowling. So what they do is they try to go after anybody that's going to work with or for JK Rowling and try to make their life hell. And that's the way they try to get at her. Because JK Rowling has FU money. And what's the good of having FU money if you're not gonna tell some people FU? So let's get into the story. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, you guys, so I was scrolling on Twitter earlier today, which I should never do, but I decided to scroll on Twitter, and I saw this particular headline that came up from Vanity Fair. Keira Knightley was not aware of JK Rowling boycott before joining Harry Potter, the full cast audio editions. Quote, I hope that we can all find respect. So we're gonna get into this story, but I just find a lot of holes in what it is that they're trying to claim in this particular article. And I think if people are smart, they'll figure out that JK Rowling has been right all along. And if you've been following me on any form of social media, you probably have noticed that I am a JK Rowling supporter. And it's not because of anything other than I think it's really brave of her, even though it is kind of low risk because of the amount of money that she's made, that she will put her neck out there for women and say, you're right. This particular woman may not have the most power in the world, but I do. So maybe I'm going to put my power behind this person and behind this cause and make sure that I truly don't forget about the little people. Because that's one thing I've noticed celebrities and politicians will do, is that at a point they'll just completely abandon what would be their fan base, or if they're a politician, their constituency, and they'll just be like, that's not my problem. I don't have to live with that. And then they just kind of throw them to the wolves. So I want to read you this story where they're talking about the Keira Knightley situation and tell you how it really doesn't add up for me and why I think Keira Knightley would be smart to just continue to ignore all of it. In a recent interview with Decider, Keira Knightley said that prior to joining the voice cast of Audible's Harry Potter, the full cast audio editions as Professor Umbridge, she was not aware of the fan boycott of all things Harry Potter over JK Rowling's statements about the transgender community. Okay, I want to take that statement apart a little bit. She was not aware of the fan boycott. Before we go any further, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. When you hit the subscribe button, click the bell, select all notifications so that you know every time I upload. Now let's get back to it. Well, why would she be aware? And I don't even know that there is a fan boycott. I mean, let's look at a timeline really quick. JK Rowling first upset the trans community in December 2019 when she spoke up on behalf of a woman named Maya Forstater who had been fired from her job for tweeting that a transgender woman could not change their biological sex, which is just a fact. But she had worked for a think tank, she ended up getting fired. JK Rowling tweeted in her defense, and the trans community got upset with JK Rowling. So then, the next time JK Rowling pissed off the trans community was in June of 2020, during the pandemic, when JK Rowling posted a link to an article headlined, "Creating a more equal post-COVID-19 world for people who menstruate." To which she commented, "People who menstruate. I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Woombin, Wimpoond, Woomood." She said, "If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of so many to meaningfully discuss their lives." And so that's when she got canceled, June of 2020. I want you to keep that in mind because June of 2020 was when JK Rowling got canceled. So then in September 2021, so a year and 3 months into JK Rowling being canceled, because if you remember when that all went down, the trans activist went crazy and they were really after her. They did all sorts of things, like posted a picture of some of them in front of her house where they showed her address. They basically doxed her. They were threatening her life, and they're getting angrier and angrier because she just will not relent. And at that time, the trans community really had everybody by the balls. No pun intended. But they did have everybody. I swear. I wish I wouldn't just talk off the cuff sometimes. Compose yourself. But they really did have everybody by the balls. And I don't know why that's tickling me like that. Okay, let's use a different term. They had everybody in a chokehold. So they were really used to canceling people and it being effective. And JK Rowling was the first one that was just like, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you say. There was a time when somebody tweeted to her that they were going to burn her book. And she was like, if you bought the book, I already got my money for it. So I don't care what you do with it. And that's kind of what a lot of these people aren't getting. And that's what I also think they're identifying as fans. When they say her fans are canceling her, it's a person that maybe bought the book one time, which if you did, I'm sure she appreciates it. But she's not going to act like she owes her entire life to you and completely abandon women because you bought one book. But let me not get sidetracked. So we're a year and 3 months into her cancellation, and they decide to release a Harry Potter game called Magic Awakened. Magic Awakened ended up making $358 million. I don't think her fans had canceled her. So maybe you say that's a fluke. Okay. So then in February 2023, they decide to release Hogwarts Legacy, which is another Harry Potter game. I remember when this one was released because there were a bunch of people online saying, do not buy this game. Do not support it. It made $850 million in global revenue. So even more than Magic Awakened, and even further into her being canceled, and after her saying a bunch more inflammatory stuff. And it gets better. Let me read this to you. The most recent Harry Potter video game, Hogwarts Legacy, has made over $1 billion in retail sales as of May 2023 and sold 15 million copies by the same date. By March 2025, sales had reached 34 million copies, with total revenue numbers varying but continuing to grow significantly. In addition, various Harry Potter mobile games have generated a combined $1 billion in player spending, with Harry Potter Magic Awakened being the highest earner within that category. So I don't know what that sounds like to anybody else, but to me, it sounds like
winning.
Between all of the games that they've released combined that were part of the Harry Potter series, that they've made $2 billion during an active boycott and cancellation. So I'm gonna tell you guys, if that's being boycotted and canceled, I need to be boycotted and canceled immediately. And so I really don't think Keira Knightley should worry about any of this. But let's go on with what Keira Knightley's response was.
I saw you're voicing Professor Umbridge in the new Harry Potter audiobooks. I was wondering, are you aware that some fans are calling for a boycott, given JK Rowling's ongoing campaign against trans people?
I was not aware of that, no. I'm very sorry. I think we're all living in a period of time right now where we're all going to have to figure out how to live together, aren't we? And we've all got very different opinions. So I hope that we can all find respect.
And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that response. And it is 100% true. And I think it's more at this point, the trans people that are going to have to understand that, or the trans activists, I should say, that are going to have to understand that. Because trans activists refuse to understand or respect that different people will have different opinions. And just because you don't like that somebody says something doesn't mean it's transphobic, doesn't mean it's hateful, doesn't mean that they shouldn't continue to be able to be employed, doesn't mean that they should lose their entire livelihood and their social circle because they said something you didn't agree with. You've got to remember, on the trans side, a lot of the activists are saying a lot of things that a lot of us don't agree with, even people that are from within your own community, that being the LGBTQ, if you still subscribe to that acronym. as being the umbrella that you're under. So if you can't accept that different people are going to have different opinions, maybe you're the one that needs to sit out in society, because a lot of the rest of us have come to terms with the fact that different people are going to think different ways, and there's nothing wrong with that. Which the reason Keira Knightley was even doing this interview with Decider was to promote the new Netflix show she's on called The Woman in Cabin 10, which I hadn't heard of until just today. But that doesn't mean that you're not always thinking about what you're going to do next in the entertainment industry, because that's what a lot of people forget, that when you're in the entertainment industry, after you finish each job, you're basically unemployed again. And yeah, while you may be making really great money, you never know when that money's going to stop. And I think you do have to be especially aware of these things when you are an actress that is aging in Hollywood, because whether people like it or not, there are fewer and fewer opportunities when it comes to actresses that are aging in Hollywood, which this is not me at all being negative or trying to say that Keira Knightley isn't a beautiful woman, or calling her old, or saying she's past her prime, or any of that stuff. All I'm saying is that as far as the entertainment industry goes, Keira Knightley is a 40-year-old woman, and mostly known for Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp, which obviously she was really young and beautiful in. And when you're an actress that's considered really beautiful, that's a double-edged sword, because they're kind of banking on your beauty and for you to be that sex symbol type. And again, I'm not coming down on her for age, because for me, being a gay man, I wouldn't necessarily be her target demographic anyway. So I don't come at women that way where I'm like, she's old, so she's not hot anymore. I don't care. The way that I look at it, though, is as a person that's been in the entertainment industry for 22 years, women aren't lying when they say that as far as being offered roles and work, things really do start to slow down when you get to that age range. And then they can't really see you a particular way. Like Keira Knightley, when you look at her, you don't necessarily think of her as the mother type. And she's also not old enough to be the grandma roles. And I think that that's something that a person like Keira Knightley has to have on her mind. And if you can do something like voice acting that's kind of chill, and you can roll in your sweats and kind of be relaxed, don't you think that that would probably be a dream job? And I'm sure that it's the kind of thing that's probably going to pay her really well. Hopefully it goes gangbusters like everything else that they've been doing Harry Potter. And maybe she is telling the truth when she says that she doesn't know any of this is going on. Because I searched for Keira Knightley on Twitter. It turns out that she only has 11,000 followers, and the last time she tweeted was like in 2011. So clearly Keira Knightley isn't terminally online like a lot of these people are, and to expect her to know this stuff and care about it does not make sense at all to me. And what the trans activists really aren't getting is that everybody is over it. Nobody really cares anymore. So they're still on Twitter trying to complain about it, because that's originally how I even saw the article. And so this is the one I initially responded to, and the most ridiculous. JK Rowling could set a trans person on fire, and cis people would still call it a difference of opinion and wonder why we can't all just get along. You know, honestly, JK Rowling has enough money that she could literally set a trans person on fire, and has never chosen to do that. And I think that we should all applaud her for that alone. And while I am half joking when I say that, I'm sure she actually could. But the point I'm trying to make is, these are the kind of arguments that nobody's really going with. And this person, trans people can't figure out how to live with people who don't want them to exist. That's not a reasonable thing to ask of them. Well, trans women, the activists, are basically not wanting women to exist. So how are women expected to do this, but trans women can't? And I don't hear a lot of people not wanting trans people to exist. There are some people that are like that. But for the most part, people are just saying women's spaces can continue to be women's spaces. And for trans women, there can either be third spaces, or they can go to the male spaces, which lines up with their biology. It's not like anybody's saying you just completely can't exist. You just can't exist outside of the rules that all of us basically adhere to. Like, what makes you think you're so special? Or in this case, this person, I believe, is an ally. But what makes you think that trans women are so special that everybody else has to bow down and allow them to just circumvent the rules that the rest of us go by in society? And this person, Sherry is the name, but looks like a male, so I don't know if it was a trans man or like a twink type boy, but this is what they said. Keira has been in movies about queer people and played queer characters, but did not do enough research to know enough about us to know that we were boycotting Harry Potter to avoid funding JKR's transphobia, which is widely known, and didn't care to research before taking this role. Well, why should she? She's just there to do a job. I doubt JK Rowling is even gonna show up for that. I mean, I know it's different because it's the entertainment industry, but does everybody do extensive research on their boss or the person that founded the company that they're going to work for? Because when I was working regular jobs, I never did that. To this person, I told them because they used the term queer, and I was like, I am a gay man. I find the term queer offensive. How dare you not do enough research to know that a lot of gays and lesbians find the term queer offensive? Maybe you should think more before you tweet. Do I mean that? Yes and no. If you really think that Keira Knightley or any actor or actress is supposed to be hyper aware of what your sensitivities are, maybe you should do some research into everybody else's sensitivities and mind yourself the same way that you want them to mind themselves. Unless queer and trans people, again, the problems are the Q and the T here, but unless you're saying that queer and trans people don't have to follow the same rules that everybody else is expected to follow, which I personally think, as long as you're not working for a true monster, somebody that's really done horrible things, you take the job, you make the money, and you shut up. JK Rowling has a right to her opinion, just like you have a right to your opinion. When did trans activists decide that they were the only ones that were allowed to speak, that they were the only ones that were allowed to have an opinion? Because you can search all of JK Rowling's tweets, and mainly what JK Rowling has been fighting for is that women are able to be safe in bathrooms, in locker rooms, and women's sports. Oh, also women's prisons and battered women's shelters, which those should go without saying. Like, a lot of times people refer to these as trans debates, trans rights debates. You'll hear a lot of times the trans bathroom debate, but it's usually not really a debate. It's usually trans people just shouting other people down and telling them what they are and aren't going to do and what people are and aren't going to put up with. And I think what a lot of people forget, because so many people did buy into the trans women are women, which is a nice thought. But where that kind of becomes dangerous is trans women are women until an actual woman says no to something, and then trans women very quickly turn into men and start shouting women down, and in some cases threatening them. And this is not all trans women. That's why I've been very careful about saying trans activists, because it usually is the trans activist types that are like this, that are pushing the trans women are women, start to shout at women, start to mistreat women, and start to threaten women. And what they forget is that you are still a male. So you are a different threat to women than if you were an actual woman. And that's where biology does start to come into play again. And that's where a lot of people really got lost and started feeling like, okay, this is a biological male that's significantly bigger and stronger than the woman that they're arguing with, that's really trying to threaten this woman right now. And maybe I don't feel right about that. Maybe even a person like me that's had trans friends for their entire adult life doesn't like to see that and can't help but feel like, no, this is where you have to remember that you are a male and actual women may have different concerns than you do. And maybe you should respect that. Maybe you should listen to women, as the left always likes to say. But for some reason, trans people think that we're all supposed to hate JK Rowling and everybody's supposed to join this boycott and actresses aren't supposed to take work from anything that's JK Rowling adjacent or under the umbrella of the Harry Potter franchise, and that's just not the way the world works. And I think you're going to have a really tough go of it if you continue to try to push this on everybody else, because you're just going to start to hear no more and more, and you're really going to start to see how little people actually want to take up for a cause that is not only fruitless, no pun intended, but also makes no logical sense. And so I would say, Keira Knightley, go make your money. JK Rowling, you don't need my permission to do anything. You're gonna do it anyway, and I love you for it. Trans activist, you've already lost enough rights for everyday trans people. So I guess continue down that course. But for those of us that actually care about trans people, we see you and we know that you're really messing this up and basically taking trans people back years and years and years. So if you're comfortable with that, you continue to do what you're doing too. And that's where I'm at on it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you want to see a video of me talking about Roger and Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, click the video on your screen. Other than that, as always, thank you for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.